괜찮아져.
Welcome back to the drama, When the Phone Rings episode 4. Watch until the end, because the ending makes us impatient to continue the next episode. Before the confession about his wife, Sa-eon received a call from the hospital, where his father-in-law was being treated. They reported that they could not find his father-in-law, Mr. Nam Jun. And Sa-eon's number was registered as an emergency contact, so they contacted him. Because it was a family matter, the president told him to use his car, because it was faster and safer. That's why Sa-eon came to pick up Hiju with a police escort. After he admitted that Hiju was his wife, he asked the two policemen to keep their personal information confidential for the time being. And the two policemen guaranteed the safety of Sa-eon's secret. Sa-eon explained that he found out about her father-in-law's incident because the nurse had his number and he planned to transfer her father-in-law to a safer hospital. He couldn't believe that the caller would go this far. From now on, Hiju doesn't need to worry about her father because Sa-eon will take care of him. Then Hiju cried so hard that she made a sound, and Sa-eon was a bit surprised because Hiju made a sound. Hiju fell silent. She spontaneously cried and accidentally made a sound because maybe she couldn't hold back her sadness anymore. Sa-eon didn't tell Hiju to stop crying, so she could cry as much as she wanted, and Hiju cried so hard by making a sound. Yuri met Sang-woo at a food stall. She felt that Sang-woo was there just to try to meet her. But Sang-woo did live in an area near where Yuri worked, in Yeondo. Suddenly, Yuri guessed that Sang-woo had a crush on Hiju, and Sang-woo choked in shock when he heard that. That's because Sang-woo once said that he loved one-sidedly, like fans. Then Sang-woo changed the subject and felt that Yuri was the one who liked Sa-eon. Then Yuri talked about Sa-eon's family, that his family was a famous political family. His grandfather was a high-ranking official who had held all positions except president, while his father was a strong presidential candidate. His family were ministers or former ministers, prosecutors, mayors, and council members. Of course, he married the daughter of a famous family, the eldest daughter of Chairman Hong from the Chingwon Daily. Sa-eon took Hiju to a hotel and he asked Hiju to wash her face and nose because Hiju had been crying. After washing her face, Hiju tried to focus again. Then Sa-eon invited Hiju to sit down and talk. As Hiju knows, lately there has been something bothering them. Hiju's car, Sa-eon's office, and even Hiju's father's nursing home. Sa-eon still hasn't filed a police report, but if it continues then there's no other choice. If Hiju is the victim, then the police will dig up information, so before that happens, Sa-eon asks her to tell what Hiju is hiding. Sa-eon could force Hiju to talk, but he doesn't want to because they are not close enough to interfere. Then he tells Hiju to eat before meeting Sa-eon's parents, and Sa-eon meets them first. Because if Hiju meets them, then Hiju will be tense, so don't force herself. When Sa-eon gets out of the elevator, it seems like someone is taking pictures of him. Then, he goes into a room where his father and mother are enjoying a meal. His father asks Sa-eon to contact Hiju, but Sa-eon says that his wife is not feeling well. He asks his father to talk right away, because he only has an hour. It turns out, after eating, Hiju fell asleep and she was shocked after seeing the time. His father asked Sa-eon to come when her father was making a TV show on a special episode of presidential candidates. Then Hiju entered the room and her mother-in-law told her to sit down. Other presidential candidates invited their children, daughters-in-law, even dogs and cats, to promote themselves. But her father's only pride was his son, Paik Sa-eon. And suddenly her father asked about Hiju's older sister, Hong Ina. It seems that his in-laws had no intention of giving up their eldest daughter from the start. They were afraid that he would lose the election, so they gave her disabled daughter as a replacement. Even though she was lowly, Hiju should have been able to prove her worth. Why couldn't she do anything? Then Seo-un brought in a camera. It turned out he knew that someone was taking pictures of him. The man was his father's order to make news that spokesperson Paik Sa-Eon had dinner with his father, Paik Yoo-yeon. Seo-un felt that his father was putting too much pressure on him because he would determine his own participation in the election. Coercion, threats and subtle manipulation, don't even think about it. His father got angry and threw a glass and Seo-un quickly pulled Hiju so that she wouldn't be hit by the glass. His father threatened Seo-un that if he stepped out of his shadow, then Seo-un could be completely destroyed. And Seo-un knew that his father would be trying to make him give up. But his father can be a presidential candidate because of his grandfather, so at least go through the rest himself. Don't whine and force him to support. And then Seo-un and Hiju leave the room. In the elevator, Seo-un doesn't want to let go of her hand. He is sure that Hiju wants to divorce him, because she married only as a substitute and can't talk. So Hiju can't defend herself when her in-laws are ranting. But Seo-un comforts her that they can replace their children easily, so don't listen to them. Hiju gets a video call from her friends. They give their support because Hiju will take the test to become a translator at the presidential office. And Seo-un will also support Hiju. But Hiju is still worried that if she passes then their family will know. Then Seo-un asks how long she wants to live as an obedient child. Isn't she sick of always obeying others? This is the right time to prove that Hiju is useful. Mr. Park submits a report on Sang-woo that there are many videos on his channel about unsolved cases related to arson and bombs. It seems that he is very knowledgeable about explosions and arson. Then recently, he appeared on a crime report on one of the TV stations, HBC. It was a crime mystery show. Hiju took a selection test to become a translator at the presidential office. This was a practical test and they had to translate from a video recording. It turned out that it was a video of Seo-un doing a press conference and Hiju seemed to have memorized the contents of the news. She did sign language and it turned out that Seo-un was monitoring her from inside his office. He watched it with concentration and then he called his coworker. Suddenly, he entered the selection room and told Hiju to answer his questions. He was curious if Hiju already knew the script because Hiju translated it before he even spoke. Hiju replied that it was her practice video. Then Seo-un would play another video and Hiju translated it. Seo-un watched it seriously and changing other videos, but Hiju can still translate them fluently. Seo-un feels that Hiju practiced with all those videos and why is she so familiar with all the videos? That's because Hiju practiced a lot with his videos, even though the videos were chosen randomly, without caring about the year. But her hands move along with Seo-un's voice. Is that a coincidence? And Hiju answers, she's like that, because she's crazy and the people in the room smile. Hiju is obsessed with Seo-un's direction because she dreams of becoming a sign language interpreter for a government agency, so she practices excessively. She studies a lot about how Seo-un's upper lip and upper teeth move when determining the point of articulation. She can guess the consonants from the sounds his tongue makes on the roof of his mouth, so her hands can be faster when guessing, and she imitates, practices and deepens it. But Seo-un doesn't like it because Hiju can't talk. How will she communicate with the spokesperson team? Then Hiju answered, she would teach sign language, because Seo-un had to be able to sign language to know if the translator was conveying the message well. So, Seo-eun could communicate more easily with Hiju. Then Seo-eun wanted to test it again. He would read a document that she had never seen before. And Hiju practiced it very well, and it turned out that Seo-eun talked about a married couple. The two of them had lived together without being able to open up to each other. Would the situation be different if they were more honest in showing their feelings? If they only tried now, would they be able to live like other couples? But today it's like a mind game. The couple are still investigating each other. Ironically, their behavior turns out to be very similar. After that, Seo-eun feels that's enough, so he ends it. Hiju visits her father, who has moved to a hospital. His room is wider and more comfortable. Hiju apologizes to her father and that the incident will not happen again. When Hiju asks about the gift on the table, suddenly her father says this, "Don't worry about that. No matter what happens, Dad will protect Hiju." Hearing that, Hiju guesses that Seo-eun is visiting her father. At the same time, Seo-eun is very warm, but also cold, very cruel, but also kind. Hiju thinks she knows him well, but it seems she was wrong. When Seo-eun was a teenager, there was a party and the dish was sushi. It seemed Seo-eun didn't like the dish. Then her mother brought food to Seo-eun, because it was impolite not to eat what was served. And Seo-eun was forced to eat it, then he threw it up again. She saw Hiju, who was forbidden to eat by her mother, even though she was hungry. When Hiju takes the leftover food, Seo-eun pulls her hand and invites her to exchange food with him. Hiju is very happy and eats the food with gusto. A beautiful woman is seen at the airport. It turns out she is Hong Aina, Hiju's older sister. And Hiju gets a notification from social media showing that Aina is already in Korea. In the past, Hiju was forced to replace Aina to marry Seo-eun. Her mother was blinded because her in-laws were presidential candidates, so she forced her to get married. When giving the wedding ring to Hiju, Seo-eun said that if the owner returned, Hiju had to return the ring. Hiju called Seo-eun again using 406 cell phone. Previously, Seo-eun had asked what she would get if he got rid of Hiju, and Hiju answered that Seo-eun would get Aina. Because from the start Seo-eun and his family wanted Aina. Hiju is just a puppet, so quickly fix Hiju as soon as possible. According to Seo-eun, 406 didn't know anything. Before Aina disappeared, the person she met before the wedding was Seo-eun. They had made an agreement, and because of that agreement, Aina would never be able to become Seo-eun's wife. Hiju was very surprised and just found out. Suddenly Seo-eun pressed the door password and Hiju was shocked and hid her phone in the cupboard. Seo-eun thought Hiju was asleep after a hard day. Seo-eun informed that he would attend Changwon's daily birthday party tomorrow. Hiju was confused whether Seo-eun actually knew that his sister had returned to Korea. Changwon's daily birthday party was held. The chairman and Seo-eun's father cut the cake side by side. Hiju came alone to the event and her mother asked her to follow her. Her mother asked about her father because he was suddenly transferred to the hospital. Then Hiju answered that Seo-eun was the one who transferred him, and her mother was shocked because Seo-eun knew about Hiju's father. Hiju felt that her mother was only worried about the chairman, but not her father. Her mother didn't care about him, and then her mother took off Hiju's jacket and made her dress look sexy. Ina's friends were in the toilet and discussed about Aina, who didn't come to the party. She had never appeared in public after getting married, and now her position is very important because she will become a daughter-in-law president. They think Ina's sister is weird because she seeks attention. she comes to the party and follows Ina like a shadow. It turns out that Hiju is in the toilet and hears their conversation. Hiju sees Seo-un, surrounded by women. She takes a drink and goes upstairs. Then she calls Seo-un, using 406 cell phone. Because he doesn't pick up for a long time, Hiju feels that he doesn't care about Hiju, or 406. Then Seo-un picks up the phone and tells her to talk. His fiancée disappeared the day before the wedding and Hiju appears as a replacement. Seo-un must be unhappy. Who else would accept Hiju, because Hiju is quite gloomy. She's not good at socializing, she's just an extra page included with Ina. She hates rich families, but is comforted by luxury. She's a coward who kneels to money. But Seo-un feels that Hiju isn't gloomy. She likes to observe her surroundings. People are rude to her first, which makes her not want to socialize. And she also doesn't kneel to money, she only loves her mother. There are times when Seo-un hates eating and talking with his mouth. He is surrounded by greedy, noisy and troublesome people. Somehow when he looks at Hiju, he can breathe a sigh of relief. And Hiju is not an additional page, but a completely new language. She repeats the same hand gesture until she becomes herself, so don't call her wife like that. But Hiju is sad. Why does Seo-un treat Hiju like she's invisible? Why did Seo-un forbid Hiju to think that they were a couple? Suddenly Seo-un arrived at the top of the building and saw Hiju holding a cell phone. They were both shocked and looked at each other. It seems that Seo-un knows that Hiju is the caller 406. Previously Seo-un came to the police station to make a report when Hiju's father was kidnapped. They were relieved to know that Seo-un's wife was fine, because that day she was very shocked. They thought his wife had a panic attack because her face was pale and she was screaming loudly. Seo-un was shocked and couldn't believe it when he found out that Hiju was screaming. Then they gave the car dashboard recording and it was seen that Hiju was panicking, talking and screaming loudly, wanting to get out of the car. Knowing that, Seo-un was very sad and frustrated. How can someone who can talk pretend not to be able to talk for a very long time? How sad is his wife's life all this time? How will Seo-un be after finding out that his wife is the caller who bothered him and also his wife is not mute? We are waiting for the next episode, only on this channel. Thank you.